have you here. I know many are going to be watching the replay of this video, so I know not everybody is in the room right now, but for those of you who are here, thank you for joining us today. We are here to talk about Africa 2026. And just to clarify, over the last couple of weeks or so, we did not have, you're not giving out donuts, Andrew? No. Easter, he was giving out donuts. To clarify, when we first talked about this trip several weeks ago, we did not have the dates confirmed yet, but I do want to confirm the dates so you are aware. Dates for this trip, April 10th through the 19th, 2026. That is just under a year from now. You see the asterisk on there. That's because there's the capability of extending your trip if you want to. We'll talk more about what that looks like later on in this presentation. So my goal is to get you out within an hour or so, but my main goal today is to keep you informed and help you understand what it is that we're doing in Africa. I want to help you understand our goals in Africa, what the whole point of this trip is. By the end of this meeting, by the end of watching this video, for those of you watching the replay, what my hope is, can you actually hear me? I'm not muted, am I? No, can they hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Matt.
Give me a thumbs up, Fred, if you can hear me. Fred's in his own world. I don't think he can hear me. Oh, there they go. Cool. Awesome. I didn't know if I was muted. Anyway, so my goal today is that you will have enough information to make a well-informed decision about whether you come to Africa with us on our mission trip in April of 2026. And so we're just under a year, so it gives you plenty of time to be prepared and plenty of time to think about it. But that being said, I don't know if you saw the recap video that we played a couple weeks ago, and if not, I want to give you an opportunity to see the recap video from the trip that we just got back from a few weeks ago. So check out this video.
Took the words out of my mouth, truly.
I can hear my wife saying, "Oh," on the front row, and I'm guessing that means that you miss it already, because I do too. And raise your hand if you went with us in Africa this last time. So quite a few of you. It was really cool. So returning customers, if you will, returning missionaries. So I'm really excited that I watched that video back, and to think that we were there a month ago is kind of crazy to think about, because I'm already giddy excited about next year's trip. So I'm looking forward to it. I do want to, for the uneducated, I do want to talk about where we're going in case you don't know. So here's a world map. And if you don't know where we are on this map, then you're probably not going to be able to afford this trip. Let's just be honest. We, of course, are over here in the United States. Over here is the big continent of Africa. And it is worth mentioning that we are going to South Africa, which is down here. If you did not pay attention to geography in high school and don't know the world map, South Africa is not just the location in the continent. It's actually a country out of the 54 countries in Africa. We're going to South Africa. So let me zoom in a little bit more as far as where we're going in South Africa. is the country of South Africa. We're gonna be flying into Johannesburg, which is one of the three capitals of South Africa. We're gonna be going to a church service in this city called Pretoria. And then from Joburg all the way up to here is about a 4-hour drive or so. And this is Hippo Lakes Luxury Safari Lodge. That's where we're gonna be heading. So it kind of gives you an idea of the big scope of things. Some of you may extend your trip, and again, I'll talk more about this later on, but you might extend your trip to Cape Town, and Cape Town is right down here at the very, very tip of Africa. So that you can take a flight from Joburg down to Cape Town, but we'll talk about that later. Anyway, so now that you know where we're kind of going, there's Botswana here, Zimbabwe, there's Namibia, there's a bunch of Swaziland over here. Anyway, so we're right up close to the border, but we're still several hours away from the border. We'll talk more about border and border stuff and all that. But since we're going to Hippo Lakes, let me zoom into Hippo Lakes. This is Hippo Lakes, and it's beautiful. When you think of Africa, when I think of Africa, I think of like dusty roads and like just dry, deserted places, and that's not what we're heading into. Surrounding Hippo Lakes is kind of what you would think about for Africa, but where this happens to be, there happens to be this river that comes down and it's been dammed up, and there's several lakes that have been created there, and there are hippos there, thus Hippo Lakes. So there's 3 lakes back to back to back. They have had, 6 hippos there, I think, and then they just got a bunch of new hippos. I want to say a baby hippo was born last night. That's awesome. So whatever the number was, around 10 or 11 hippos, now there's one more baby hippo that you could meet. Yeah. Anyway, so that is where we're heading. And about a year ago, just over a year ago, in 2024, my wife and I, we went to Hippo Lakes for the first time. And I'm going to invite Ashton to come up and kind of tell a little bit of the story. Yeah, you can come up here. Tell a little bit of the story as far as what happened with us. Some of you might have heard this story, you might be familiar with, but I think it's relevant to the bigger picture because God is working behind the scenes, and sometimes when we're not aware how he's working, he's still working. So I wanted to invite Ashton to come up, and which, by the way, you're wearing a Flourish shirt right now with an elephant on it, and I don't know if your audio is on or not.
I don't know.
Can you hear her through the mic?
I think so.
Okay, I have an ear infection right now, so I can't hear up here. Anyway, so well done. You had over 400 people that were part of Flourish, and it was awesome, and you did an amazing job. And so it's really cool over the last couple of days. You and your whole team, from the worship team, the media team, the merch team, the setup team, the food team. It was awesome. And I know you're really tired, so thank you for being here today to kind of share the story of Hippo Lakes. Yeah, so tell everybody about kind of how we got started and incorporated with Hippo Lakes.
Okay, so a couple years ago, it was 2.5 years ago or so, we went on a vacation with our family, and Matt has an aunt, and we call her Aunt Di, and Aunt Di doesn't have any kids, and so she's kind of adopted us as her kids. And we were on vacation together in Las Vegas, and we're in the pool, and she said, I want to know what everybody's bucket list trip would be. And she said, because if I ever get the means, I would love to be able to take all of you on a bucket list trip. And so we all went around, and I shared that mine would be to go to Africa and go on a safari. So many of you know I worked at the Albuquerque Zoo. I worked with animals. I love animals. So I said I would love to go on a safari. So a couple months went by, and Aunt Di calls me, and she said, Ashton, you're not going to believe this. I am at a Catholic Charities silent auction, and I just bid on a safari in Africa. And she said, if I win this thing, you have to come with me. I was like, oh, okay, done. Yes, I will come with you if you win it. And so I didn't hear anything, and she called the next day, and she said, we're going to Africa. She said, we're going to this place called Hippo Lakes. I know nothing about it, but you have to come, and Matt, I guess, can come with us as well. And so we organized the whole thing, and that was maybe my brain is not going to work. So that was last year in April. We went to Hippo Lakes, and so it was so so funny because probably a few weeks before we went, we knew we were going to Africa. We knew we didn't have to like get medicine or take shots or any of that. But we didn't know much about it. And I remember just Googling hippo legs and like, wow, babes, this is really kind of bougie and this is really nice. And so we didn't know much going into it. I didn't do a whole lot of research. I looked at like, do they have hair dryers in the room and, you know, kind of essentials of what I needed to bring and pack. But I didn't really do a whole lot of digging into what Hippo Lakes was. And so we get there and the first thing we get to do is go meet the elephants. And so of course I was just so excited about that. And then we did the drive to Hippo Lakes. And as we're driving into the gates of Hippo Lakes, I start to notice this sign, and there's one side of the side that says Hippo Lakes and the other side said 10, and it said Teach Every Nation. And I was sitting in the front seat with the driver, and so I said, what in the world is 10? I didn't know Hippo Lakes was part of something else. They said Hippo Lakes is part of 10, which is Teach Every Nation. This is actually a Christian organization founded by Bruce Wilkinson. He's a very famous author and speaker, and he wrote the Prayer of Jabez. So he was telling me about Bruce and how it was his vision to have Teach Every Nation, and Hippo Lakes is a part of that. And as we continue driving, I see people that have Walk the Bible shirts all over. And so there's people that were on the campus doing ministry. And I thought, this is so cool. I was like, my husband is a pastor back in the United States. I said, we're so excited that this is a Christian organization. And so we get settled at Hippo Lakes, and we had some things that happened the week that we were there. So while Matt and I were there, typically how Hippo Lakes works is it's people like Matt's aunt who won this at an auction. And so it's people from all different walks of life, all different states that we were kind of with who had all won this at an auction. And so we were at dinner one night, and we were sitting across from a couple, and he was very angry. And he said to our ranger, Anton, who was sitting with us, he said, is it true that this is a Christian organization? Because I watched a YouTube video and I heard that it was Christian. And he said, I don't want any of my money that I give this week to go over there to the Christian organization. And Matt and I were just looking at each other, just kind of dumbfounded and really sad. And I tried to change the subject, and he's like, I know what you're trying to do. Don't change the subject. And he was just a very lost, very sad individual. It was very sad. And so Matt and I just were sad that night. And Anton ended up just feeling very defeated, and he kind of got up, and Matt walked over to Anton and just said, Anton, you're doing a great job, because the staff that works at Hippo Lakes, they are all Christian. They all love God, but they can't really talk about God a whole lot because it's, you know, people who won this at auctions. They don't necessarily want the ministry side of things. And so Matt was really able to minister to Anton that night. It was a really beautiful thing. We really created a connection with Anton. Matt was giving him scripture, and do not grow weary in doing good, for at a proper time you will reap a harvest if you do not give up. And so as the week continued, Taylor was his name. We were able to kind of soften Taylor's heart, and he even told Matt, like, we have a lot of church hurt in our past. And he said, but you've kind of given me a renewed hope for pastors and for churches. So he went from being very angry about a Christian organization to being very open about it towards the end of our trip, which was really cool. God really worked. And so, but when we got home is when Matt and I really kind of started talking and processing. And Matt said, how cool would it be if people came to Hippo Lakes that knew what they were doing there and where their money was going, and they wanted to make disciples of all nations, and they wanted to partner with Teach Every Nation. And so we really started to have this vision that we wanted the two to be able to come together, because when we were there, we did get to tour 10, and we got to learn about their vision and Bruce and what was taking place over there. And we thought, how cool would it be if Hippo Lakes, instead of being booked out by silent auctions and just very wealthy people who can afford to go to Africa, what if we could combine the two and bring people to Africa to experience the beautiful side of the safari tent side, but also get to have ministry as a part of it.
And here we are. Good job, babes. Thank you. Can you give my wife a round of applause? She's awesome. Marry me. Okay. Yeah, so that kind of gives a nutshell as far as how we got to this point. And again, God's always working behind the scenes. You never know what he's going to be doing and how he's going to be doing it. And he works for the good of those who love him. And we were out there for a vacation. Turns out God was planning something much bigger than just a vacation for us to go see some lions and giraffes and zebras. So Ashton mentioned an organization called Teach Every Nation. Teach Every Nation is a nonprofit organization. They're based out of Atlanta, but they do a lot of training for pastors around the world in Africa, specifically in South Africa. But there's pastors from all 54 countries that come to their campus, which is located on the same property as Hippo Lakes. So Hippo Lakes is in one portion of the property, then the 10 campus, Teach Every Nation, is right next to it. So you could literally walk from one side 5 minutes and be in the campus for Teach Every Nation. So as Ashton mentioned, we didn't know anything about Teach Every Nation, never heard of it, but it was founded by a guy named Bruce Wilkinson. Bruce Wilkinson wrote the Prayer of Jabez, as Ashton mentioned. And if you're unfamiliar, the Prayer of Jabez, it's one verse in the Bible where there's this dude named Jabez, and he prays to God, expand my territory. And God did. And God expanded his reach and his capacity. And so that's something that Ashton and I pray for. And we're seeing that in our church. We're seeing that with Flourish. We're seeing that with Marksman. We're seeing that across the board. We're one of the fastest growing churches in the United States. And I think a lot of that has to do with prayer. God answers prayer. So Bruce and his wife Darlene prayed that same prayer, the prayer of Jabez, for decades. Have been praying that prayer, and God continues to honor that, continues to bless them in their ministries. And so it's really cool seeing what Teach Every Nation is all about. Prayer of Jabez came out a couple decades ago, but Bruce launched Teach Every Nation back in 2013, and Teach Every Nation exists for the purpose of the Great Commission, which is go and make disciples of all nations. That's what we're all about here at Hills Church as well. So one of my friends, he is a staff member for Teach Every Nation. He works at Teach Every Nation. He lives up in Colorado, and he and his wife came down from Colorado to be here at church today. So they worshiped with us today. But in addition to that, they are here. And so thank you, Sean. His wife, Michelle, has come down here to just be with us and hang out with us today. And so Sean, you got to turn your mic on. I think it's off. But I've given a brief overview of Teach Every Nation, but if you could give us more of an insight as far as what's Teach Every Nation, or 10 for sure, what's the heartbeat behind Teach Every Nation? So everybody that's unfamiliar, like we were a year ago, has a little bit more of an understanding what 10's all about.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna keep my face really close to this. I think that works better. So, Teach Every Nation actually was founded 13 years ago. And already the Lord has allowed us to grow into 163 countries. And we've reached well over 500,000 pastors. Why are pastors and church leaders a focus? Because that's where change happens. Most of the rest of the world, the greatest work of change happens through the local church, which is founded by a pastor. But very few pastors can focus on the church full time. Most are bivocational, which means they have a full-time job and the church is their second full-time job. And so they don't have the opportunity to go for formal training. And yet the fastest growing response to the gospel is in an area of the world called the Global South, Africa, Asia, and Latin America. So they're having an explosion of response, no resources to grow and disciple those who come to Christ. So we stepped into the void 13 years ago to provide training for pastors and church leaders to take that back to their congregations to grow, to cause their people to be able to grow and to be responsive to the word of God in their lives. And so every pastor and church leader that comes to campus, they become deans. So a dean has graduated from kind of the orientation program on campus. Each one of them gets a box like you see down here that has 10 of the Bible School on Wheels, and also to encourage them to think bigger beyond one book of curriculum to expand to next year and the next year and the next year. So pastors would have the opportunity to go through now 6 years of content over time through this information. So every pastor goes home with the box, and he's able to, or she is able to, start a discipleship training center. The big mega goal is to have 160,000 discipleship training centers across the Global South to help evangelize, not evangelize, but to grow those new converts who come to Christ through the response to the gospel. And so Zimbabwe, we saw that country on the map that Matt pointed out. They are kind of a forerunner, a front runner in this mobilization process. So they already have one discipleship training center for every 50,000 people, which is the goal, and all 160,000 of them. There would be a discipleship training center within walking distance for every 50,000 people. That's why we need 160,000 of them. And so, so that's the goal. They've not only done one for 50,000, but they're on the way to one in every 5,000. So they're kind of the pioneers and the front runners of how this really can grow and exponentially to reach people and to disciple them for Christ. So our training center, which is on the Hippo Lakes campus, pastors and church leaders get to come there. Why would that be important? For rest. What else? Camaraderie, absolutely. Do you know how many pastors have ever gone on a vacation? Never. The first vacation they go on is oftentimes to Hippo Lakes campus. That's the first vacation they've ever taken because they're working full time or they're building their church on the other. So it gives them an opportunity to refresh. Whereas then they go back and they're like, hey, I want my wife now to come back and enjoy this with me. And so then they bring people back and other leaders that they want to train. That's how we've been able to grow. So that's probably more than you wanted to share, but that gives you a little bit of context. So when you come with us on the mission trip next year, part of what you'll be doing is helping bring other pastors and church leaders. Some will be returning to gain new skills. Others will be coming for the first time. So your coming on the trip helps them get to campus to get one of these boxes to take back and start the discipleship training center. So you get to be part of expanding the kingdom of God through that process.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, Sean. Can we give Sean and Michelle a round of applause for being here? And like I said, they live in Colorado. They're going to be driving back to Colorado later this afternoon, but they will be around here. So if you have any questions about Teach Every Nation, Bruce Wilkinson, the courses, anything regarding the development throughout the Global South, you can ask them any questions. In fact, you can ask them any question about this trip at all. Sean knows this trip like the back of his hand. He came to Africa with us a few weeks ago, so he and Dion were my two left hand man and right hand man, whatever, holding my arms up like Moses. And anyway, so Sean can answer any question. Dion can answer any question as well. But Sean and Michelle will be here afterwards to answer questions if you have any questions regarding the missional side of things. So Sean mentioned Great Commission, Matthew 28:19-20. These are red letters of the Bible. Jesus says, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you, and surely I'm with you always to the very end of the age. That's what we're about at this church. That's why you have three big words when you leave. Go, make disciples. That's why our name, Hills, is 5 steps to making disciples. H is, I is, L is, L is, and S is. That's right. Host, invite, lead, love, serve. Everything we do is all about how do we make disciples of Jesus Christ. So when Ashton and I connected with Teach Every Nation, and we realized that we have the same mission, we realized that the Great Commission is really the Great Co-Mission. It's a mission that we have, it's a mission that they have, and we will be more effective at making disciples worldwide if we partner with a worldwide partner. They will be more effective back in the States side if they partner with a world-focused partner. So this partnership really is mutually beneficial. We are benefited by the relationship that we have with Teach Every Nation, but Teach Every Nation is benefited by their relationship with us as well, for a couple different reasons, and we'll unpack that. So given that, I want to explain how typically how this works. And Ashton taught on this or talked about this a little bit. So here's Hippo Lakes, right? I put Rady's charity auction up here. That's just a random children's hospital in San Diego. It's not really random to Ashton and I because our middle child Noah was born there. But let me just use them as an example. I don't even know if Hippo Lakes integrates or has any charity auctions at Rady's Hospital, but just for an example. So here's how it typically works for Hippo Lakes. There's two ways that you can go to Hippo Lakes. One, you can go to their website. You can just Google Hippo Lakes and you can book a safari vacation in Africa straight from their website. The other way of getting to Hippo Lakes is through a charity auction. So as an example, let's say Rady's is doing some sort of charity auction for cancer research, for example. What Hippo Lakes will do is that they will discount their retail prices and basically offer a wholesale rate that they sell to Rady's for the charity auction. Then Rady's will take that and they'll list it in their auction for the same price that they got it for, and then they'll start the bidding process at that rate. Anything above that rate, Rady's keeps as profit for the charity, and then Hippo Lakes keeps the original wholesale rate. At the end, the guest over here, whoever this guest is that buys the charity auction, typically will get it for cheaper than whatever the retail rates were for the website. Now, again, you could just go on there on the website and book a vacation there if you want to. Or the other option is that you find some sort of charity somewhere around the United States that's auctioning one. So Ashley mentioned when we went, it was the result of my aunt getting a charity auction that she got from Catholic Charities. So she won the auction and invited us to come with us. So when we showed up, there was guests from Chicago, from Dallas, from Florida, from all over the places, and they had all won a charity auction from somewhere. So when we got back, we were thinking, well, how can we bring a group of people? How can we bring a team of people and support what Teach Every Nation is doing? And so we were processing that, and I was like, what would be cool is if we, no offense to Rady's, but if we cut out the middleman. It would be cool if we could just go straight to Hippo Lakes, straight to Teach Every Nation, and basically buy a bunch of packages from them. Now, I didn't want to go to the website because the website's expensive. But at one point, Sean and I were on a Zoom call with the president of Teach Every Nation. His name's Martin Deacon, as well as Wesley, another guy that works for him. And we had a Zoom call together. And I pitched an idea to them. I said, what would it be like if we went to Hippo Lakes, as Ashton was saying, we booked the whole thing out with our people, all people who love God, all people who are all about the same mission as Teach Every Nation. And what if we booked the whole thing out? Could we bypass both the website as well as the charity auction? Instead of you bidding on it somewhere, could we just buy them straight from you? And they basically said, yeah, you can. Nobody's ever done that before, but you can do that. So we did. We booked out all the spots at Hippo Lakes. And here was the beautiful part. I was basically making the pitch. Since I'm booking the whole place, can you discount this rate, the wholesale rate, even more? Like Groupon, like Sam's Club. When you go to Sam's Club, you get things in bulk, and therefore you get them cheaper because it's in bulk. So basically, we negotiated the rate down from Hippo Lakes, what it normally is on the website. But I said, since we're getting such a great deal, what we'd love to do is have a portion of what our guests are paying go back to the training that Sean was talking about, the education for pastors, the training for pastors, the vacations for pastors. So really what it turned into is really almost like a Tom's Shoes model. If you're familiar with Tom's Shoes. If you're not familiar with Tom's Shoes, they were all the rage back 10 years ago or so. But basically, if you go to Tom's Shoes, you can buy a pair of shoes from Tom's. And anytime you buy a pair of shoes, you're buying another pair that gets given out to somebody in Africa. So that really is what we're doing on this mission trip. When you buy a trip for you, you're buying another trip for a pastor or a dean or an ambassador to come to the property as well. And as Sean was saying, most pastors, not just in Africa, but most pastors even throughout the world, even in the United States, not a whole lot of pastors go on vacations. So for many of these pastors who just don't get downtime, they just don't get rest, they don't get refreshment, this is a godsend. Because they basically have to get themselves to Hippo Lakes. But once they're there, their meals are taken care of, their lodging is taken care of, the refreshment is a part of that. There's training and there's equipping that's a part of that. So they get filled up head-wise, they get filled up heart-wise, they get refreshed while they're there. And all that reminds me of Psalm 23. We went through this a little while ago. When King David says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul." When I read these verses, it reminds me, honestly, of Hippo Lakes. Because when you come out of your tent in the morning and you see the calm waters with the fog coming off of the waters, and you see a hippo or a crocodile or a wildebeest or a zebra drinking the water, playing in the water, splashing in the water, it really is refreshing. It's refreshing for the animals, but it's refreshing for you. It's refreshing for the pastors, for the deans, the ambassadors, and to think that there's, when you going on this trip, there's at least three things that are provided for these other pastors. There's training, there's vacation, and there's encouragement. And you provide all three of those things for all these pastors. And the beautiful part of that is that many of these pastors that you're paying for this experience, they're going to be on the campus the same time we are. So not only are they getting trained, not only will they have a vacation, not only will they have encouragement, but, and you get to provide that with the Tom's Shoes kind of model, but you get to meet them. You get to have relationships with them. You get to know their names. In the last month or so, almost every single person, if not every single person that just raised their hand and said that they went on this last trip, many of them, if not all of them, have been in communication with some of the people that we've met. In fact, raise your hand if after Africa, after you got back, you've had some sort of interaction with a dean, pastor, or ambassador. Yeah. We've established relationships and friendships with these people on the other side of the globe. This is not just a picture that you put on your fridge of here's the person that I'm sponsoring. You know them. You know Silas. You know Godfrey. You know Edwin. Yep. You know Gift. Pascal. Like we know these people. These people have become friends, even in a very short period of time. They become family. In fact, I shared this a few weeks ago when we got back. This is Pascal. He gave me that vest. I was going to wear it today, but my wife said, "No, you already wore it a few weeks ago, so I don't get to wear it two days in a row." I left it at home. You did say you already wore that. Anyway, whatever. So thank you, Kyle. Appreciate it. See, I knew there was a reason you came to Africa with us. Amen. There's your amen guy. This vest, he gave this vest to us. This was on Saturday morning, and this is right before we were boarding the bus and we were going to be leaving Africa. And he gave this vest to me. Matthew 28:19, that's the Great Commission, go and make disciples of all nations. And on the front side of that vest, it says International Commission. And what's interesting is that, the phrase Great Commission, the title of Great Commission is not actually in the Bible. Christians call the Great Commission because of this incredible commission that Jesus gave to us, go and make disciples of all nations. But Great Commission is not technically in the Bible. Those two words are not in the Bible. So not everywhere in the world refers to that section of scripture as the Great Commission. Some people in Africa, they call it the International Commission. It's just their title for it. Some people would call it the Worldwide Commission or the Global Commission. They're all referring to the same thing of Matthew 28:19 and 20. So the front side of this vest, it says International Commission. Like, that's cool. Like, I've never referred to the Great Commission as the International Commission. There's no right or wrong for it, but I just love that there's pastors on the other side of the world through Teach Every Nation that have the same heartbeat of making disciples of all nations. So what we get to do is we get to provide a place of refreshment and relaxation. We get to provide a place where people are trained and equipped and get to grow in their knowledge and understanding of the Bible. They get to have an increased confidence of going back to their country, their tribe, their village, and spreading the gospel even more. But what you'll recognize is that almost every single one of these people, almost every single one of these men and women, they're not just leaders of a church or just pastors. Many of them are bivocational, like Sean said, but many of them are leaders over leaders, which means that your investment in them has a continued investment in other people. You're investing in people who are investing in people who are investing in people who are investing in people. So when you think about the Great Commission or the International Commission, the only way that we're going to make disciples of all nations is if we're making disciples who are making disciples who are making disciples. That's the only way to be successful, because none of us, myself included, I'm not going to personally change 8 billion people around the world. But if we can make disciples who make disciples who make disciples, like Paul says in 1 Corinthians 11:1, follow me as I follow Christ. That's a discipleship model. I'm going to follow Jesus. Follow me as I follow Jesus. That's what it is to be a disciple. I'm not just following Jesus, but there's a matter of me inviting other people. Drop your nets. Follow me as I follow Christ. So there has to be not just following Christ, but inviting other people to do the same. So when you go to Hippo Lakes and you're paying for another person their trip, they're being taught, they're being refreshed, they're being equipped, but they go back to their villages really on fire to make more disciples. And that's what we got to see and got to experience, is that all these communications that we had with our new friends out there, a lot of them got back and they're like, I have a renewed passion for my calling. I have a greater understanding of how to reach more people. So what this trip does, it's not only training you, equipping you, refreshing you, but it's a 2 for the price of 1 kind of thing. You are able to go to this trip and you're sponsoring somebody else to go through the same thing, but they're going to go home refreshed, renewed, increased knowledge. It's a beautiful thing, and your return on your investment is truly exponential, because it's not just you going, but you're investing in leaders who are investing in leaders who are investing in leaders. If we go and we dig a well in Kenya or Uganda, that's good. We're providing water. If we go and build a church, that's good. We're providing a structure. This trip is different. We're not digging wells and we're not building churches. There's nothing wrong with mission trips that do that. There's no physical labor required in this particular trip. What we're focusing on is equipping leaders who are going to equip leaders. We're equipping disciples who are going to make more disciples. And while we could go and support a village with a well, the people that would be benefited by that well might be a few dozen, maybe even a few hundred people. But the impact, the reach of a trip like this is astronomical. In comparison, the return on your investment of coming on this trip will likely reach thousands of people who will reach thousands of more people who will reach thousands of more people. So we're talking easily tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people that will be impacted because of your investment in the kingdom. So comparatively, if we go build a church, that's helpful. We dig a well, that's helpful. But for me, I want the greatest return on my investment of both time and money. And I want to make the biggest bang that I possibly can in a mission trip like this, because we're investing in equipping and training and refreshing other pastors and leaders and deans and ambassadors. There really is an exponential snowball type of effect in this type of mission trip. So it's different than the average mission trip. Some people say, well, somebody just recently told at the women's conference to Ashton, like they go to another church and they're like, we went to Africa and we slept on dirt floors, and your church goes to Africa and you guys have like the bougiest mission trip ever. And it's a 5-star experience. And so it's different than the average mission trip. And so sometimes people are like, oh, well, you're just a bunch of snooty, snobby people. I can understand that, yet at the same time, we want these pastors to be refreshed. And we get to be in the same place that they're being refreshed. We get to be refreshed and they get to be refreshed. And their refreshment is being provided because we're sponsoring them. We're paying for them. Their education, their training, the box of materials that they're going to be taking back, all that is paid for because of you participating in this trip, which is very different than if you were to go to Rady's Hospital and buy an auction. The auctions that people are bidding on don't have any of the mission component. Normally what happens is that any profit from Hippo Lakes goes to support Teach Every Nation, but we've been intentional about building that in. And it's not just profit from Hippo Lakes, it's a matter of sponsorship. Every person that comes with us is sponsoring at least one or more pastors by coming, and then those pastors show up and we get to experience that, make those relationships. So really, this trip is a win. Is that enough wins? It's a win for you because you get to go on an awesome trip to Africa, number 3 most desired place for most people, for most Americans on their bucket list. But it's a win for the deans and the pastors and the ambassadors because they too get a vacation. But it's a win for Hippo Lakes because we're booking out the entire facility. It's a win for Teach Every Nation because we're coming alongside and partnering with their mission, with their desire to make disciples. So it really is a win on a number of different areas and a number of different ways. I guarantee, even though our goal is to impact other pastors and deans and ambassadors, that's our goal. Our goal is to provide for them and support them and love them. And yet at the same time, I 100% believe you will be impacted, possibly even more than the people that were there to serve. That's how mission trips work. It's about 3 or 4 months after we booked the last trip. We already had sold out, so we had 45 people that were already in alignment or already planning on coming on the trip that we just got back from. And it was just several months ago that the president of Teach Every Nation, Martin, he reached out and he said, Matt, would you be willing to teach marksmen while you're in Africa? And I was like, I don't know. Like, we've got 45 people coming. This is a significant investment of time and money. And you know, marksman is men's ministry. I don't know how the wives are going to feel about that if their husband like disappearing. And so I was like, I don't know. I lean towards no, Martin, but I'll think about it. I'll process it a little bit more. So I processed it with some friends and with my wife, and one of the things that Bruce Wilkinson talks about is the prayer of Jabez. Pray for opportunities for expanding your territory. And even though I initially loosely declined teaching marksmen while we were there, I kept coming back to, I feel like I'm supposed to. I feel like this is an opportunity that God's bringing to me and to our congregation. And so I called Martin back another week later or so. I said, hey, I really feel like I've changed my mind. I feel like I'm supposed to say yes to this opportunity. And he said, that's great. We're building this huge LED wall, kind of like this LED wall. It's a 40-foot long LED wall. It's getting installed like the day before you arrive. And so you guys get to be the first group to ever use it. So we looked at our roster. We had 45 people booked by this point. We looked at the roster, and of the 45, 15 men had gone through marksman before. And so as we were processing that, I called a meeting with all 15 guys and I said, hey, would you be interested in helping lead marksmen while we're there? And at first, all the guys were like, absolutely. I said, really, I need you to sign a liability waiver from your wife to say that you're allowed to do that. And so sure enough, all these guys, I wasn't kidding. I made them go home and like get a document and have their wives sign off, because I didn't, you know, again, we're talking $5,000 a person or so. This is a significant investment of money. And so, so I had all the wives sign off on it. And so we had 15 guys that showed up, and we taught marksmen, and I didn't know how it would go. Like, how will it be like a white dude like me showing up to Africa, teaching leadership curriculum to men? Like, will it work? Will it not? I have no clue. So we taught 8 sessions in what we have now termed Marksmen Worldwide. And we filmed the whole thing. And then afterwards, once the cameras were turned off, I asked all the deans, there was 25 deans and ambassadors there. And I asked them, I said, hey, off the record, will this be helpful to Africa? Will this be helpful to your tribes and your villages? And all of them were like, Pastor Matt, you don't understand. This is what we have been praying for years. Which, by the way, I think my African accent is much better than yours, babes. When last night you were imitating African accents, you were totally Asian. You got the wrong continent. Welcome to totally wrong accent. Rainier? Oh, Shakir. That's Muslim. It's still not close. Anyway, so these pastors, these deans, after we'd done the 8 sessions of marksmen, they said, there's not a whole lot of men that go to churches in Africa. Now, just to give you perspective, in the United States, it's roughly 50-50 as far as men and women in churches, probably a little bit weighted more on the women's side, maybe 55-45 of more women coming to churches than men. But in Africa, it's about 98% versus 2%. 98% women, 2% men. Men just don't step up in Africa. They're not leaders in Africa. And sometimes the problem is the pastor. The pastor is very territorial over his congregation. And so he wants to push out the men because they are deemed as a threat to his authority and his leadership. So they push out the men, they don't cater to the men. And a lot of the churches in Africa are very predominantly female. And so these deans, these pastors, these ambassadors, like we desperately need something like this to to create a revival and a fire in the men throughout Africa. And I didn't know any of that. Sean had told me a little bit about that prior to us coming, but hearing that from the deans and the ambassadors, it really brought clarity of, okay, I'm glad God presented the opportunity, and I'm glad we said yes. And so we filmed the whole thing right now. Marksman is in post-production, the editing is in post-production, and we are hoping that it will be done the first week of July. A lot of these deans and ambassadors are just waiting for the content to be done. So right now, the plan is to launch Marksman in 11 different countries the first week of July, which is awesome. And so, yeah, that's cool. It's God working behind the scenes. And so back when we launched this trip and we sold this trip out last time, Marksman wasn't even a part of it. It became a part of it, and now it is a part of it. So next year, in April of 2026, Marksman will again be a part of it. How? I don't know yet. We're just waiting on God to figure out what that looks like. But Marksman will be a part of it moving forward. But in addition to us training them and us providing for the deans and the pastors and the ambassadors, at the same time, you too, as I mentioned, you too will be equipped. You get to go to a church service in Pretoria, South Africa, where it's a South African church service. Their worship is very different than our worship. Rachel Corley is going to be way outside of her comfort zone because it's different than what we do. She's probably going to be on stage. Actually, we're probably going to see the Espanola side of Rachel come out. They don't let you bring guns on the airplane, so maybe not. No, but dance is very part of the culture. Like dancing is very part of the African culture. So like they get down when they're in their worship, and so like all of us people from the United States, we're like, like some people that come from more of the charismatic background, they're like, let's go. But it really is a lot of fun. It's different than our church services, and the worship is different. And what I love about this is that it doesn't look the same as what we do, and because they're explaining to us, because when we show up with a group of like 45, the church is about 45 people, so we double their attendance in one day. So they'll explain to us, hey, we're going to be reading these lyrics in Swahili or in Zulu or some other language in Afrikaans, but here's what it means. And they explain the lyrics, and so we're singing in other languages, but they taught us what these lyrics mean. And it really is just so cool to be a part of their culture. They're not trying to be us, and we're not trying to be them, but we get to venture into this world where it's just different types of worship. And then their pastor will get up and you get to hear the word of God from a South African pastor. So it's just really cool. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to be taking you to a church service where you will get to experience worship. You'll get to be under the teaching of a South African pastor that's there. And the pastor of this particular church, he's one of the ambassadors for Teach Every Nation. So he's going to all sorts of different countries doing kind of what we're doing, but he's going and making disciples in other places in addition to this church that he pastors. And so that really is cool. We get to grow in a church service there. In addition to that, once we're on the Teach Every Nation campus, there's different teachings that our group will go through alongside some of the deans and ambassadors. Some of the teachings with Bruce Wilkinson or perhaps me or Marksman or whatever, you'll get to be a part of different teachings. And so again, you're going to be challenged. I do want to make a mention of this, however. Even though we're equipping these pastors and these deans and these ambassadors, you don't have to do the teaching. I know that's been a concern for other people. Like, do I got to know the Bible better than a pastor? Like, you don't have to teach them. You're paying for their education, but the education is being provided by Teach Every Nation. So you don't have to show up and be like, okay, let's do a Bible study with a pastor from Uganda. You don't have to know the Bible like the back of your hand to be able to do this. So don't let that be an excuse of I would go if I knew the Bible better. You don't have to teach people, but the education is being provided to them at the same time to us. A portion of it is to us as well. So they're growing, we're growing. They're being refreshed, we're being refreshed. They're being encouraged, we're being encouraged. It's a two for the price of one. And if you go back to that model, the business model that they have, the rates that we have negotiated are better than what you could get in an auction at Radius somewhere. So the whole 2-for-1 price is really, there's no other better scenario that you could have as far as pricing goes than what we have already established. So I share all of that because you could go do this on your own. You could go to Hippo Lakes on your own. You could go on a mission trip on your own. There's lots of places you could go and have a mission trip. But this relationship that we've established with Teach Every Nation and what we're doing on this trip really is something that's special. And I believe that the work that's going to be done in April of 2026 will carry on for decades, maybe even for generations to come. So I want you just to understand a little bit more as far as how the missional side works. And that's why we share about Teach Every Nation. That's why we share about deans and pastors and ambassadors. Now, all that being said, you're probably wondering too, what are the accommodations like at Hippo Lake? So here's a picture off of the deck of one of the places. So this is the lake that I was talking about, right over where that dirt patch is over there on the kind of the right-hand side. That's where hippos come down, and they're going to be in the water down over there. So this is the view from one of the tents. There's really 5 different options that you get to pick from when it comes to the accommodations at Hippo Lakes. The first one I'll mention is called green rooms. This is a green room. Now, this is kind of like a luxury condo that they have there. Now, if you go onto the Hippo Lakes website, you're not going to see anything about green rooms. And the reason why is because these are not available to the general public. Green rooms are typically reserved for pastors, for deans, for ambassadors, other people coming on the campus. And so most of the time, guests do not stay there. The only reason that I'm even mentioning this is because some of our staff and some of board members, some other people will be staying there. Ashton and I will be staying in a green room. In the past, we've stayed on lakes that are right on the water, or tents that are right on the water. But there is one green room that we have available to this group. So the reason we present that is because the green rooms are a cheaper rate than the other tents. So the cost for the green room to stay here, there's 2 queen beds there, but the cost is $19.99 per person, just under $2,000 per person. Now, what does that include? That includes, of course, the place that you're going to stay for 7 days when we get there. This whole trip is about 10 days. So 7 days or so includes staying in the green room. But in addition to that, it includes a whole bunch of other upgrades. Now, I mention these upgrades because if you go to Rady's and buy the package that you can get from the auction, none of the upgrades are included. So in the rate of one or just under $2,000, $19.99, it includes a 5-star hotel when we get there to Johannesburg that night. That's a $400 per night hotel. It includes dinner at that hotel, breakfast at that hotel, which is about 40 or 50 bucks per meal. It includes transportation to Hippo Lakes from Johannesburg, which is typically about $200 or so. Round trip transportation. It includes an elephant excursion. Ashton mentioned that when we're going to Hippo Lakes on the first day. We go to church on the first day is a Sunday, so we'll go to church, and then after church service, we'll go and have an elephant encounter, an elephant excursion. That's about $180 or so. So the rate includes that. All the meals are covered at Hippo Lakes, the safaris and game drives. One of my misconceptions was that before we went to Africa, I thought you would go and do like one safari when you're in Africa, but you do a lot of them. I think our team did maybe 9, I want to say, 9 we call them game drives, but it's the same as a safari. So you do one in the morning, do one in the afternoon, do one in the evening. So there's a bunch of different game drives. So all the game drives are included in that. There's what's called a bush braai. A bush braai is like an outdoor barbecue where you get to try some of the local cuisine. A lot of the meals have local cuisine like kudu or ostrich or eland, which, by the way, if you're not a fan of international foods, there's American foods there as well for the people who are not adventurous, but I would highly encourage you to try the local foods. But the bush braai is an outdoor thing where there's a barbecue outside and they grill food over hot coals. Like, it's just really, really cool. That's usually an upgraded fee. Was it 65 bucks for that, I think, per person for that? Non-alcoholic drinks, usually you get 1 drink included. We have an unlimited drink, basically tab. That's different for the people who just got back. We did not have that last time, but that's a part of the next trip. Unlimited drinks. And then, of course, there's also the sponsorship that we talked about. You're paying for a whole other pastor or multiple pastors by them going through the same kind of thing. They go on game drives. They also have their meals and everything included for them as well, plus their training materials that they go home with. So if you do the math, $19.99 for all of that is a bargain. It does not include, it's worth mentioning, doesn't include your flight. So you got to get your flight on your own. It doesn't include travel insurance, which is required for this trip. You have to get travel insurance. It doesn't include tips. The tips kind of work similar to a cruise. If you've ever been on a cruise, you have the same housekeeper the entire cruise. You have the same server the entire cruise. And rather than giving them a tip every single day, you do tips at the very end of the cruise, and that's how this is as well for Hippo Lakes. At the very end, if somebody gave you good service, you can give them a tip if you want to. On average, it's around $75 per person that you would be tipping. So for a married couple, you'd be looking at about $150 for tips at the end of the whole thing. So that's not included. What's also not included is shopping fees or whatever you'd spend shopping. Unfortunately for my family, that's not included. Yeah, Ashton, she had a budget and she was like, screw the budget. This is all for Jesus, right? Yeah, that is not the Great Commission, Kyle. You're disinvited from next year. Anyway, so the $19.99 for this rate includes everything but the flights, the travel insurance, tips, shopping that you would do, plus the meals to and from Hippo Lakes. Those are pretty much on your own as well. We'll eat like a meal at dinner in Atlanta before we get on the flight, which I would recommend over the airline food, but take the risk on your own if you want to. If you want to eat the what's that? Oh, and there's another addition is a Big Five game drive. The Big Five, there's 5 main animals that are the most hunted animals in Africa. They're elephants, buffalo, leopards, lions, and rhinos. Those are the most popular 5 animals. So they call them Big Five. I always thought Big Five was just a sporting goods store in the United States, but apparently Big Five is the most popular animals on the other side of the world. So there is, of those Big Five, there's leopards on the Hippo Lakes property, and there are what's the other one? Buffalo. Well, hippos aren't Big Five. Buffalo and leopards are both on the property. Lions, elephants, and rhinos are not on the property yet. Down the road, they probably will be. Rhinos are probably next to be on the Hippo Lakes property. In fact, they might be there by the time that we're there next year. Anyway, so we will go to a Big Five game drive. That's about an hour and a half, 2 hours away or so. We'll load on a bus and go to a place that has all the Big Five. And the last trip we were there, we had some torrential downpours, crazy storms, and it washed out some roads. And so we couldn't do the game drive to the Big Five place as intended. So we had to push it back to another day. And the only opening that we had was in the afternoon. And we discovered that the afternoon game drives are when all the animals are asleep. And so we found that out the hard way. So next time we won't be making the same mistake. We'll be going in the morning or by sunset or so. Probably sunset is what we'd be shooting for, which is when all the animals are really active. You see the herds come out, and the lions will come out. So that's a part of it as well. And that's normally a big upgrade as well. And that's included in the cost of the rates that we already have. So anyway, so the lowest price option, green rooms, that's one of your options. There's another type, which is the lakeside tents. Now, this is a picture of a lakeside tent. Let me show you a couple other pictures. Here's another picture of a lakeside tent. It's got a plunge pool right by the water. Some of them have wood-fired hot tubs as well. Here's a pool that's outside, like an infinity pool. The lake does not come up right. It kind of drops off, so you don't have to worry about a crocodile swimming with you. There's a lodge. This is all the lakeside lodge. And so actually that one, is that lakeside? No, that's the other one. This one's lakeside. Anyway, so there's 10 tents along the lakeside, and there's 2 main sides. There's lakeside and there's mountain view. Where the green room was is kind of up on the hillside a little bit away from the water. The reason why it's a little bit more discounted is because it's not right in the water. All the other options are right in the water, kind of like you can see right there. So lakeside, there's 2 types of primary tents in lakeside. There's a family tent, and then there's all other tents. So all the other tents, there's 8 regular tents, and there's 2 family tents on lakeside. The 2 family tents can hold 4 people each. So this could be a husband and wife, plus 2 adult kids, and adult kids 18 and older is what we're shooting for. If you do have a kid that's younger than that, come talk to me. But basically the rule across the board for this trip is 18 and older for the trip. We don't want your little kid getting eaten by a lion at some point. Not to say we want you to get eaten by a lion, but anyway, so for the family tents, there's 4 people per tent for each of the 2 family tents. So the family tents are a little bit less in case you do bring a family. So it could be a husband and wife and 2 adult children. It could be a husband and wife and another husband and wife if you want to co-mingle with another couple. It could be 4 friends. That not like that. Well, how else would you say? You stay in the same tent. Jeez, Ashton. You need to go to Flourish. You need to abide in Jesus. Anyway, so it could be two couples. It could be four friends that are in the same tent. And so there's a couple different options as far as how that works. If you are traveling with friends, then it's fine for you to be able to book that. But if you're just traveling as a single solo person, we would ask that you don't jump into the family tent because you're going to make it complicated for other people of like there's a single person there. And so you can work out with other people if you want to travel with others. So there's 2 family tents. The other 8 tents are really intended for couples or for friends, like 2 friends. And so the rest of them are king beds. They are not separatable. So if you are there with a friend, then just know that you can somewhat snuggle with them. But it's a king bed, so it's all good. Anyway, so those are the lakeside options. The lakeside tents that we're talking about. Let me go back to this picture. These start at $29.99, so $2,999. It includes all the other upgrades that we already talked about: the bush bride, the transportation, the meals at Hippo Lakes, the drink package, the Big 5 drive. All of that is included. Again, your flights are not included, your tips, your travel insurance, and your shopping are not included in that. But again, for $3,000 per person, that is still a remarkable deal. So the next option that you can go for is the Mountain View tents. And let me show you a picture of the Mountain View. This is, you can't really see it, but there's a lake right down under there as well. There's also a plunge pool here as well, just like the others. Some of them have wood-fired hot tubs on them as well. When we were there a few weeks ago, there was 5 Mountain View tents. There's 5 more that are under construction that will be ready by the time we get there. So we're booking those out as well. We will be some of the first guests to ever use them. These are brand new tents. And so the rate for these starts at $33.99 as opposed to the $29.99. So a little bit more for the brand new tents. There's a little bit more space in these as well. No, which by the way, when I'm talking about a tent, clearly, I mean, this is not a tent that you would go sleep in like Vallecito. Like this is a different kind of tent, like permanent structures built on permanent foundations, very relaxing. The water is drinkable. There's showers with hot water. There's a coffee bar in each one of the tents. There's a mini fridge. So there's electricity in case you're wondering. You might need a power adapter, but we can talk about that later. Anyway, so it really is luxury on the water, and it's just a really cool spot. Let me share a couple other pictures with you as well. This is an introduction to the Mountain View Lodge, the main entry. There's a pool that you can swim at. You can't see it, but there's a logo of the hippo, like their hippo logo at the bottom of the pool. So that's really cool. You can go out there and relax. Right where the person was taking this picture, right around the corner, there's a spa. Here's the picture of a spa. You can get facials, massages. I don't know what else is on this, pedicures. So there's things you can get at the spa if you want. That's all first come, first serve. Once you get out there, you can't book it ahead of time. There's a little gym. It's not much of a gym, but it's a gym. Speaking of, if you want to go on a walk or a run, you're welcome to do so inside the property, but you have to stay inside the fence because if you get outside the fence, it's good luck. To see if you can outrun the leopard, you know. But you can't go on walks. You can go and explore the property. This is where we do some of our discussions and Bible studies together. It's just beautiful. Pictures don't do it justice. The videos don't do it justice. It's an amazing place. Anyway, so there is a new tent that's being built right now. That's basically a family tent on the Mountain View side as well. That's the one that starts at $33.99. And then you can basically, if you want to stay with 2 couples or parents of 2 kids, again, you can do that. Or you can opt for one of the other tents. And those other tents, I think there's 9 of them, I believe, that have 2 people per tent. Anyway, so on both sides, Lakeside and Mountain View have 2 people per tent, and then there's a few options where you can have more than 2 people stay in those family tents. So those are the 5 options: green room, family tent, lakeside luxury, regular tent, Mountain View family tent, and then a Mountain View pair, like luxury tents as well. So those are the 5 options you have to deal with. So let me break it down a little bit more. Here's what it might look like for you. Green room, talked about this already. There's the green room. Flights are going to be around $1,800. There's 4 versions of flights. You can get business class, you can get a business class upgrade, you can get first class. So $1,800 is a fair estimate. That I got a quote about 2 weeks ago, and that's where it was at. So that'll get you at least there. If you want to upgrade it, you're welcome to. Upgrades go up to $10,000 or so, $12,000 if you want to go first class. But $1,800 will get you there in economy. Travel insurance, you're looking at anywhere from $50 to $500, depending on your age, but this is about average $100 per person. So if you add all that up, you're looking at total investment, again, not including tips and not including shopping, but total investment with the major things is around $38.99 per person. That's for the green room. Let me show you a comparison between the others as well. Lakeside Family Tent starts at $29.99, total of $4,900 or so. Lakeside Luxury Tent's a little bit more, $51.99 per person. That's what you're looking at. This, you don't have to take pictures. This is all on a website. I'll tell you the website here in a second. Here's another example, Mountain View Family Tent starting at $33.99. Total price would be about $5,300. If you have just a couple's tent, $5,500 or so per person. Now, that's a lot of money. That's a big investment. When you're talking per person, that's a huge investment that you're making. However, I think it's worth comparing. If you take our highest price option, the $5,500, and you compare that to the website of what you could get, their lowest price option, if you go on to Hippo Lake's website per person, if you add everything up, you're looking at $8,180 per person. That would be the rate if you were to go book it on your own. Through this deal that we have created, you're at $5,500 or so. It's worth mentioning, this has no ministry component. You're not sponsoring pastors on the side. So this is inclusive of your flight. This doesn't even include your flight. So the deal that we're offering, the deal that we have is far better than what you could get on your own. You could go book this on your own, but it wouldn't have the ministry component, and it would be a whole lot more expensive. Now, all that being said, the thing that I haven't really talked about yet, which is what most people go for, is the animals. Africa is number 3 on most Americans' bucket lists for going and seeing the animals. Now, for us, that's not our why. The why we're going is for the Great Commission. The animals, for us, is icing on the cake. That's the primary reason other people go to Africa. For us, it's just the cherry on top. So, like I said, you'll be able to see other animals. Hopefully on one of the big game drives, or the big game drive, we'll be able to see lions. There's buffalo on the property. There's zebras all over the property. It's really cool. One of my favorite parts of the whole thing is what's called the Sky Safari. Sky Safari is where you can take a helicopter and it takes 2 people at a time and you 500 feet up. And then Fuentes, who's the helicopter pilot who doesn't wear shoes because it's Africa, he'll be like, whoa, there's wildebeest down there. So we'll fly you down real low to see the wildebeest and then fly you back up. And then there's giraffes and he'll go down over here and then come back up and there's baboons and fly down over there. So when we went, we can't book this ahead of time because it's based on the weather and all that. And so if helicopters and Sky Safaris are an option, we'll find that out once we get there. But if it is an option, 12 out of 10, I would recommend it. Ashton and I did it both trips, the one back in 2024 and the one we just did. And the cost per person is around $220 per person as an upgrade. That's not included in the cost that I was telling you about. That's an option for you. But of the 45 people that went with us, I think that 33 of the 45 is how many people went with us or did the helicopter flights, which is the highest number of flights that they've ever had in one group ever before. And I think that next year we might actually exceed it. On the same day, yeah, poor Quintus. It's like, dude, we were one of the last ones. Ash and I were some of the last ones to go, and he was tired, but we got a sunset flight. It was amazing. So doing a safari from the air it's only 15 minutes. It's a 15-minute flight. If you struggle with motion sickness, take some Dramamine and deal with it because it is amazing. It's absolutely incredible. So really, really cool. I would absolutely recommend doing the Sky Safari. So there's a lot of other animals as well on the property. There's hippos on the Hippo Lakes property. There's crocodiles, kudu, wildebeest, zebras, giraffes, buffalo, leopards. 40 plus species that are on the property. So that's really cool. Like I said, the elephants, the rhinos, the lions are not on the property, but we'll go and hopefully see them. It's actually really rare to see all the animals in the same day, all the animals in the Big Five, but it is possible. The group that was there right after us, they saw the leopard. In fact, the last 2 trips, the day after we left, people saw the leopard, and I still have yet to see this stupid leopard. So apparently 9 of them that live on the property. how many acres? I don't remember, Sean, you remember, Dion? I don't know. They measure things in hectares out there, so I think it's like 10,000 hectares, which each hectare is 2.5 acres. Yeah, I think elephants require still more land than what they have. Rhinos, I think they can qualify for, and eventually they might get elephants. Elephants eat 500 pounds of vegetation a day, each elephant. You can't get one elephant, you gotta get a family of them, because they're so social. Anyway, so it may be a while before they get elephants, but rhinos, it's looking like they get rhinos. They will get rhinos in the near future. So all that to say, again, the animals, it's beautiful. It's God's creations. Like to see them roaming around, it's just awesome. Last time Ashton and I were sitting, this was our first trip. We were sitting there on the deck of our tent, and we could see some splashing of the water of the lake, and there was a crocodile eating a wildebeest in front of us. I was like, that's not a view you get very often in Farmington, New Mexico, ever. You know, so it's just really cool seeing all these different species, and again, you'll get to see them in multiple different safaris and game drives. One of them will be a night safari, so you can bring a flashlight with you, and you can shine the flashlight into the trees, and you see eyes staring back at you. So that's really cool. Anyway, so lots of different animals encounters and opportunities to see animals. Now, when I talk about animals, oftentimes people get freaked out. They're like, "Ooh, animals scare me," which I understand. So the tents, all of the tents have electric fences underneath them. The entire property has a fence around them, around the property. There's also armed guards outside at the entrance of the property. Now, to clarify, the armed guards are really there to protect against poachers and people that are wanting to steal the animals. They're not really there protecting us. They're protecting the animals that live on the property, because sometimes people want to come and steal the animals. So there are armed guards. Other people are like, well, isn't there violence in Africa? Of course, there's violence in Africa. Some people don't want to go on this trip because they heard about a year ago or so, there were 70 Christians that were held up at gunpoint in the country of Congo. And that's true. In the news, you'll see things that take place in the continent of Africa. But keep in mind, when you hear about news in Africa, Africa is a very big continent, much larger than the United States. So that would be like saying, well, if I'm not going to go because of the violence that was taking place in the Congo, that would be like saying, well, I'm not going to go to New Mexico because of cartel violence down in Cancun in Mexico. Like it's that far away in a different country. It's on the same continent, but would you not visit Farmington, New Mexico because of violence in Cancun, Mexico? Like it's so far away. So we as Americans, we think about Africa like, oh, there's violence in Africa. Ooh, scary. Well, yes, there is, but put it in a context. That's a very long ways away from where the violence is taking place. I'm not even talking in the same country. Now, a few weeks ago, there was an incident that made international news where there was a pastor taken from a church at gunpoint in South Africa, which is the same country that we're in. But it's so far away from where we're at Hippo Lakes. It would be like saying, well, there was somebody that busted into a church in Chicago compared to Farmington, New Mexico, and kidnapped a pastor in Chicago. Now, again, if we were to bring that up here and say, hey, watch out all the pastors in San Juan County because in Chicago, somebody was, assaulted by gunpoint, we just wouldn't be worried about it because there's so much space between us. That's the equivalency of the amount of space between where we're going to be and where reports were, even in the same country of South Africa. So I just say that because sometimes people have a misunderstanding. They're like, oh, I would go except for the violence. Well, put it into context as far as where the violence is. There's violence in New York City. There's violence in LA. There's violence in Dallas. And so is there a risk? Absolutely. There's always a risk. There's other risk. People are concerned about malaria, for example. Malaria is a risk in Africa, but it's not a risk where we're going. We're going in malaria-free zones. Pretoria, Johannesburg, Hippo Lakes, Vaulwater, Cape Town, all of those areas are in malaria-free zones. So up higher north, there is malaria in Africa, in the continent, but where we're going primarily, it's not a concern. So again, we can have fear of the unknown and fear of what we're seeing on the news. But I would say that the greatest risk of this trip, to be honest with you, is probably driving from Farmington to Albuquerque on 550. That's the greatest risk. Statistically, if there's going to be something that bad that takes place, statistically, that's probably where it's going to take place. So if you're concerned about driving from Farmington to Albuquerque, if you're concerned about that drive on 550, then maybe don't come on the trip. But as far as all the other violence, is there a risk? Sure. What would it be? I don't know, 1%, 2%? People are like, oh, it's too risky flying on a flight across the ocean. Again, you're much more statistically likely to die from a car accident driving to Albuquerque from here than plunging into the ocean. So you can make a decision based on fears of irrational things. It's unlikely. Is it possible? Sure, it's possible. But I would encourage you to consider what I talk about in marksman all the time is risk versus reward. What's the possibility for risk? Risk is very low, maybe 1 or 2%. Can something happen? Absolutely. But what's the possibility for reward? You changing lives, investing in the kingdom. I would say it's at 99%, maybe 100% by going on this trip. So 100% likelihood of making an impact on the kingdom, 1 or 2% risk as far as something detrimental happening. I can't make that choice for you. You have to make that choice. Is the reward worth the risk? I personally think it is, but that's for you to decide. All right, final things that we'll talk about, and then I'll cut you loose and we'll answer any questions that you've got. But what I haven't talked about is the asterisk I included on the dates at the very beginning. Remember I said April 10th through the 19th, there was an asterisk on the dates. The reason there's an asterisk is because you can extend your trip if you want to. And there's 5 main ways of extending your trip if you want. First is by going to Cape Town. This is on the southernmost point. I showed you this on the map earlier. Cape Town is considered the mother city of all of Africa, the entire continent. It's not just South Africa, but the entire continent. I would compare it to San Francisco, not regarding the amoral activity of San Francisco, but I would compare it to San Diego. It's like a beach city. It's beautiful. There's a stadium there, of course, and then there's that's called Lions Head Mountain Range, and then Tabletop is the far mountain range in the back. You can take a tram to the very top of it, which is what our team did. When we went, 45 people went with us on the overall trip. Of the 45, 14 of us came down to Cape Town and added on a Cape Town extension. So this is possible. If you're going to fly all the way across the ocean and spend roughly $2,000 on that flight, you might consider going to Cape Town. Cape Town is beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's different of an experience than what we experience at Hippo Lakes. Hippo Lakes is kind of in the more rural parts of Africa. This is more of a city metro type of environment. You go sightseeing, you go see wineries and vineyards, you get to go see botanical gardens. If you were here for Flourish, you saw some pictures that Ashton shared with some huge bamboo trees and other trees and botanical gardens, so you could go see those. We actually, this mountain range right here, this little one right there, there's a team of us that hiked to the very edge right to there, which is an awesome hike that we went on. And I would compare it to Angel's Landing in Zion National Park, if you're familiar with that. So we'll go to the top over here, to the very top of Table Mountain, then all the way over here, you can't really see it, but off the map, there's another place that we go to. In fact, way over here off the map as well, there's a place where there's penguins. You go see penguins. There's a Cape Town penguin. It's the only place in the world, right in this little section where they live and they exist in the world. So it's really, really cool. The extension cost per person, the investment of this is $19.99. So roughly $2,000 more. That doesn't include your flight from Johannesburg down to Cape Town. That flight is only about $130 or so. But there is an investment on that. When we went just a few weeks ago, there was not a ministry component like there was up in Hippo Lakes. But when we were there, when we were in Cape Town, we had established all these relationships with other deans and pastors and ambassadors. And so we started reaching out and saying, hey, do any of you from Zimbabwe or Uganda or Kenya, do any of you know people down in Cape Town? And many of them began to reach out. And so we threw an impromptu meeting where we threw a vision regarding Teach Every Nation, threw a vision out about marksmen. And we gave them a couple hours or so to show up. And with our team and their team, we had 21 people there for this vision meeting that we just impromptuly, is that a word? That we threw out just kind of in the last minute. And so while there was not a built-in ministry component planned this last trip, there turned out to be that in the end. Next time, we'll build it in intentionally. So when we do go back, if you go to Cape Town, there will be a ministry component to that, just like there is in Hippo Lakes, even though this last time it wasn't planned. So that's an option. I'm going to play a quick video of Cape Town because if you get to go on this trip, I would love for you to consider Cape Town. So check out this video about Cape Town. That video hits different once you've been there, huh? Because where that guy was at the very end when he's sitting on the rock, like some of us stood on that exact same rock, and so it's just really cool. Cape Town is awesome. 10 out of 10 recommend it. Ashton and I did not go to Cape Town in 2024. My mom and my aunt did, but we did not. And they came back raving about it. So this last time we did add that on for us, and it was incredible. So if you have the means to be able to do that, the time and the finances to be able to pull that off, I would highly recommend it. Another extension that's option 4 days. Yeah, 4 days. Kyle says 4 days. Yeah. So, and that's another 5-star hotel that you're staying in down in Cape Town. It's within walking distance of probably my favorite restaurant in Cape Town. What was the name of it? Barristers. Yeah, such good food. Best calamari I've ever had in my life. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Very well done, very pleasant play. Very.
And for those of you online, you might not have heard that, but you can go swim with great white sharks. You could jump off a mountain, go paragliding. If the wind was too high when we were there, we tried to go paragliding, it didn't work. But there's hikes you can go on, there's botanical gardens you can go to. You can go horseback riding in the ocean, like that's cool. So lots of different options that you can add on if you want to. So that's Cape Town. That's your first optional extension. And there again, there's 5 total. I'm not gonna go into depth on all of them. This one is Victoria Falls. Victoria Falls in Africa is the equivalency to the Niagara Falls in the United States. Victoria Falls it borders between 2 different countries, Zambia and Zimbabwe. So if you do go to Victoria Falls, this is actually what Ashton and I are doing in April of 2026. Last time we went to Cape Town, this next year we're going to Victoria Falls. So if you'd like to join us, you're welcome to. Victoria Falls is basically a 2.5-day extension. The cost per person is $9.99. And again, I can't tell you a whole lot about it from personal experience because I haven't been there yet. But you get to go and visit the waterfall up there. Because we're flying there, when we go back to Johannesburg, we fly north to Zimbabwe. South Africa does not require Americans to bring visas. You do need a passport. You need a passport book, not the card, to get into entry into South Africa. Zimbabwe, however, does require visas. Americans have to get visas. You can buy a visa for $30 US cash. They don't take checks or credit cards. So you can buy a visa in the Zimbabwean airport. And Zimbabwe and Zambia, where Victoria Falls is right on the edge of a malaria zone. And so if you do add on for this extension, I would recommend that you consult with your doctor or physician regarding malaria medication. Basically, it's a pill that you can take 2 days before you go. So while you're at Hippo Lakes, we'll have to take the medication, and Ashton and I are planning on doing that. But just so you know, of everything we've talked about, now you're potentially getting into a malaria zone, so you would have to consider that. Everything else, unless you go on this extension, you don't have to do. So that will start on a Saturday. We'll be leaving Hippo Lakes property on Saturday. Saturday afternoon, we'll be back at the Johannesburg airport. We'll fly to Zimbabwe. We'll be there Sunday, Monday, and we'll be flying back out on Tuesday. With that, a lot of our partners, like Sean was saying, a lot of our deans and ambassadors from Teach Every Nation live in Zimbabwe. So part of what we're planning on doing is having the opportunity where we go and visit the waterfalls, but add on another day or two to visit with some of the deans that are not going to be back on the 10 campus with us, so we can encourage them and support them and do additional missional work while we're in Zimbabwe, since we're already there in their backyard. So that's going to be a part of that extension. And again, that's an option. Third extension option is for you to go hunting if you want to. There is no hunting on the Hippo Lakes property, but there are game farms around there that you can go hunting at. So if you want to come hunting, you're welcome to. The pricing for hunting varies based on the species you want to hunt or harvest. So you could get an impala. It's probably the cheapest animal that you can harvest when you're there. $200. If you wanted to shoot a lion, my wife would disown you. But if you did do that, then you're looking around $50,000 to $1 million, depending on where you want to go with lion hunting. And so that's an option that really is on your own. We can help you coordinate. Hippo Lakes and the 10 team can help you coordinate with which hunts you want to go on, but this will be outside of the trip that we're doing. So basically you would be extending on the trip, and then you're kind of on your own in Africa, and we hope that you get back to the United States. So we can help you with that, but just know that that's really not what we're doing as a group, but that is an option if you want to. Another option relates to marksmen. I mentioned going to Zimbabwe and Victoria Falls. We're going to be adding on a couple days there. However, I know that some people that I've spoken to are like, I don't really care about even Victoria Falls. I just want to go and develop marksmen in other countries. So that's a possibility. If you want to go to Uganda, you want to go to Kenya, you want to go to Mauritius, you want to go to Madagascar, you want to go to some of these other surrounding countries, you can. And I personally will be doing limited work in Zimbabwe when we're there. But if you want to go on just a tour and meeting other deans, pastors, and ambassadors that are running marksmen, we can coordinate that with you as well and help make that become a reality. So that's an option for you as well. Last option that you have is you can build your own adventure. You can go out there and you can add on a day, you can add on 2 days. I know some people fly through Amsterdam to get back to the United States, and so you can add on a day or two in Amsterdam if you want to see Amsterdam on the way back. If you want to stay once we're done with Hippo Lakes, when we go back to Johannesburg, if you want to add on a day to Johannesburg, a lot of our people did that this last time. Instead of flying out the same day, they flew out the next day so they could go to a restaurant in Johannesburg or go shopping. So that's an option for you as well. So really, it's a build your own adventure. So possible extensions: Cape Town, Victoria Falls, hunting, building your own marksman, or we can help you with building your own marksman tour, or building your own altogether extension if you want to. So 5 options for you if you want. Last couple things that I'll mention is I want to read to you a testimonial, and then I'll get a couple people to come up and share their experience too. But I went onto the website, Hippo Lakes website, and here's a testimonial, random person. I don't know who this person is. It's a girl named Shannon. And here's what she said about Hippo Lakes. Because again, this is a significant investment of time and money. But here's what she said. She said, I can't say enough about the Hippo Lakes experience. There are so many safari experiences to choose from, but this is so much more. From the beginning of planning your trip, Wesley and Terry are organized and informational, as well as super friendly. Once you arrive, Anton and Sinead, if you've been, you know exactly who Anton and Sinead are. Once you arrive, Anton and Sinead have you right at home in the luxury accommodations. This is glamping on steroids. The quote-unquote tents have laminate floors, beautiful wraparound decks to watch the hippos, private sunken pools, some with wood-fired hot tubs. The private bathrooms are gorgeous with family-sized walk-in tiled showers. The linens, oh my gosh. The luxury linens just want to make you stay in bed all day. Let's talk about the food. Chef Rena, again, if you've been, you know who Chef Rena is. Chef Rena and her staff are very aware of any dietary restrictions that you might have and serve incredible meals each and every setting. Part of the experience is the opportunity to partake in local food. The excursions, where do I start? There are safaris morning and afternoon. The guides that we had, Sean and Abram, again, you know those names if you've been. Sean, he's a trip. Right, Dom? The guides we had, Sean and Abram, they were incredibly educational, informative, and totally engaging. We had so much fun. They were able to see and spot animals like they're a part of nature. I swear that they could sniff them out. There are over 40 species of animals on the property, and I know we saw over 20. The kudu, giraffe, hippos, crocodiles, zebra, warthogs, Cape buffalo, leopard. Yes, we saw the leopard, which I have envy over the leopard because I still haven't seen the leopard. On and on, the animals were plentiful and abundant. You'll have the opportunity to go visit another reserve that has elephants, rhinos, and lions so that you can hit the big 5. We did it, and it was a great experience. So what's different? Hippo Lakes, you arrive as guests and you leave as family. We'll be keeping in touch with our new friends that we made. It was such a dream experience, Shannon. Now, with all due respect to Shannon, she didn't even have the missional proponent. The whole reason we're going is for the Great Commission. And as amazing as that testimonial is, it's still missing the main reason why we're going out there, which is to empower and equip and train these other pastors. And so take all of that, plus the missional side, and you have a glimpse as far as what this trip will look like. So a couple people, a lot of hands went up earlier as far as who's been to Hippo Lakes before. I've invited Dom to come up. Dom, if you would come up and share a couple words regarding your experience. There's a lot of people that are interested in going back again. So Dom and Nikki came and they added on the extension as well. They went to Cape Town. So you can, from your vantage point, Dom, you could share whatever your 2 cents is. I have not paid Dom for his testimonial. I don't even know what you're going to say. So what was your thoughts for people? You haven't even been yet. As you're wearing the rhino shirt that you got in was that Amsterdam?
It was in Amsterdam.
It was. Okay.
So
No, that was Cape Town, Cape Town.
Oh, it's Cape Town.
Yeah.
It's Cape Town. Forgot. So when Ashton and Matt came back from their trip to Africa and they put out an interest form just to see who was interested, me and Nikki automatically were like, oh, we're signing up. We're gonna do this for sure. We weren't sure about the mission side of what that was gonna look like, but we just went with an open heart and open mind. And on the flight from Atlanta to Joburg, there was already a God moment. Sit down next to the gentleman, and he's actually a pastor in Cape Town. So I began to speak with him and tell him, you know, what we were doing, talked to him about marksman, and then eventually introduced him to Pastor Matt. I'll never forget what Pastor Matt told him. He told him, we're gonna change the world. And didn't think much about it again. And I said, well, you know, we'll get in touch when we go to Cape Town. So we went to Joburg, went to Pretoria, went on to Hippo Lakes, met Sean, Machine Gun Sean. So you guys know him, he's amazing, made great friends. My expectations of Hippo Lakes, it far exceeded anything I could imagine. Spending the time with my soon-to-be wife, they called her 2B, because they asked if it was my girlfriend, they didn't quite understand what that was, girlfriend. So they called her 2B, so she's 2B my bride. Eventually. So Nikki's 2B, we're parents. And then from there, we went to Cape Town and had the impromptu meeting that Pastor Matt was talking about. So I reached out to Pastor Justin. He showed up and it was just amazing. And like Matt said, I can reiterate, these people are on fire for the Lord and on fire for God, and everything they're doing is so passionate. It makes me realize like what they're doing with so little, how much more we can do, right? So it definitely ignited a fire on me. We need to keep that fire alive. And something Pastor Justin said that struck a chord with me as well was when he got on the plane in Atlanta. So he's a pastor for Victory Outreach, and the founder of Victory Outreach had passed away. So he was actually there for the funeral stateside. Said he prayed before he got on the plane that he would sit with Christians. And his prayers were answered, and that was a God moment that still chokes me up. If Matt called me and said, we're going to Africa tomorrow, my bags would be packed. And I think Terry would go, Kyle would go, Greg, I'm sure there'd be a bunch of us that we were going to go. But that's my story from Africa.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate it. Terry Stewart. Come on up, bro. After Terry, does anybody else, we'll take maybe one more if that went to Africa. Anybody else want to share? Pop up. You're the same family, bro. All right. Kyle can follow Dad. Terry, what do you got?
So the biggest thing about this was we really didn't know what to expect. We were going, we heard that it's a mission trip, and I think a lot of people initially when they heard how, bougie it was going to be, they're like, oh, it's really a mission trip. But just to be honest with you, like from the very start, we 45 people from this church, some of us didn't know each other. And truthfully, like you just come back like family. We're up there living life, and we get to this campus, and I think Shay said it the best in the video. Is as soon as you got there, you could just feel that that campus. Yes, it's bougie. Yes, it's nice. The food is great, but the people and the pastors. Once you get there and the pastors show up, it's just cool. Like you can just feel God working. And it was every step of the way as we went, you could just see God showing up, from the flight over to getting to Hippo Lakes, to hearing these people's stories. And you sit down with these guys, and Matt talked about as we were teaching marksmen on the international side with these guys, we'd have a break in between on like session 2. And it was immediate, these guys talking about how it's just life-changing for them. This curriculum, everything that we're doing, like it's truly life-changing for the men of Africa. So no matter what you think about, oh yeah, it's bougie, but the mission is amazing. What we're doing there is amazing. The people are amazing. And I don't think you'll see any other time, like God's working, and it was just really cool to be part of it and be able to do marksman for the first time there. It's amazing. The trip is wonderful. If you get the chance to do the second portion of it, I would highly recommend it, because like we said, we didn't think there was a mission component, and God just kept showing up and showing up and showing up, just every step of it. So, it's a great trip. I would recommend it to anybody. You probably can't keep me away.
Awesome. Thanks, Terry. Appreciate it. Kyle, come on up. Here, bro. I want my hug. So, yeah, Dom and Terry and Kyle, all three of them came on the extension. So Kyle, I know some of your stories, but share whatever is on your heart as far as this trip.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kyle. For those of you who don't know, so I got to go on the trip to Africa. It was amazing. I mean, when I walked into it, I was just wanting to kind of go to Cape Town. Like that was where my heart was. I thought it would be so cool to go to Cape Town. By the end of it, I didn't want to leave Hippo Lakes to go to Cape Town. I was like, man, I want to stay here for the next 4 days and hang out with these people because it was amazing. I mean, the first night I sat down with this guy Habib, and I was like, I'm so nervous. I'm not going to be able to outdo these people. Like they do ministry like more than I do. And I sat down with this guy, and he's like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I'm a janitor." He's like, "Well, what do you do for ministry?" I'm like, "Well, I'm a youth leader," and that sparked the conversation instantly. They were like, "We don't have a youth program. How do you do it out there?" And I'm like, "Oh." So I had a whole conversation with 3 to 4 guys about youth ministry. I didn't know that was going to happen, and it was amazing to get to share with them what I do here with them. And I mean, yeah, like he said, the food's great there, all this stuff, the animals are great, but the friendship and the connections you make there with other people is just amazing. And it's truly life changing. And yeah, Cape Town was cool, but still, I would rather spend the rest of my time at Hippo Lake. So yeah, it was cool. And then the one thing that I really liked is me and Charity tag teamed this dude at the hotel in Cape Town. There was this guy named Jonathan, and she was reading her Bible one day when we were out doing something I can't remember. And the guy comes up to her and he's like, "Man, that's my favorite book." And they got talking and stuff, and then they were all like, "Well, who wants to pray for this dude?" And I was like, "I'll pray for him." Come to find out, that dude needed a good amount of prayer. And it was pretty cool to see that we just got a guy who worked at the hotel and got to pray for him. So it was super cool. So yeah, if you could go on the trip, and I plan on trying to go next year, so definitely should.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg. Coming from an 18-year-old who has a heart for missions now, that's pretty cool. Jump in. Yeah. Might be off.
Too. Okay, so I just want to share one quick story about Matt and I when we arrived at Hippo Lakes this year. We got to share a little bit of our story, how we ended up there, just like I shared with you guys. And right afterwards, one of the pastors, Silas, he walked up to me with just the biggest smile on his face, and he said, "Hello, my friend." And he just gave me a hug, and he said, "I just want to be, your friends, and we do ministry at the same, doing the same thing." So we sat down, and Silas and I were talking, and he was telling me about Zimbabwe. And I said, "Tell me about your church." And he said, "Well, I have 8 different churches." And so Silas travels around, and we have a video that we could show you another time, but he has a megaphone, and he literally walks around neighborhoods in Africa inviting people to come to his churches. It's amazing. And so he'll go to people's houses. He doesn't have a building to do church. He just grabs his little Bible school on wheels in a little suitcase, and he travels around, and that's how he does church. And so Silas was telling me this, and he said, but in Zimbabwe, because of the way the government is, they don't have electricity during the day. So the government actually turns off the electricity from 5 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night to conserve. So it's kind of like these rolling blackouts that you hear about. Sometimes they're happening in Africa, but in Zimbabwe, it's really bad right now. So I said, "Well, what's your biggest need?" And he said, "Well, we need the Word of God, and we need books and things on iPads." And so now Bible School on Wheels has little iPads for them. And it's just really amazing, the resources. But so Silas and I had this interaction the first night, and then the next morning he came and found me, and he said, "Ashton, I didn't sleep all night." And he said, "I really believe that you and I and your husband, we have a connection." And he said, "A God connection." And he said, I want to be your partner. I want to pray for your church. I want to pray for Hills Church." And so Silas and I got to sit together later that day, and we were talking about his churches, and he said, "My church doesn't have a mission." And he said, "I want my church to have a mission." And I said, "Well, our church's mission is go make disciples of all nations." And I said, love God and love others, and everything else is just details. And he said, that's my new mission of my churches. And so I gave Silas one of our Hills Church shirts that says love God and love others. And he sent me a video of him wearing it at church the other day. And Silas was sending me messages last night on WhatsApp. In the middle of the night in Zimbabwe, he was interceding for me, for the Holy Spirit to be speaking through me at Flourish. So this is what the ministry component can look like and will look like, is these relationships. I never, dreamed I would have a relationship with some pastors that are in Zimbabwe. But next year, we're hoping, Lord willing, that we can go to Zimbabwe and meet Silas's family and go to his churches. So it's really incredible. And what you guys should know, back, when I introduced this story, what Matt didn't share, because Matt is very humble. But when we got back to the States, Matt had this vision, and he wrote Martin, the CEO of Hippo Lakes and Teach Every Nation, a letter in the mail. And it took some time for him to actually make contact with Martin. But Martin got on a Zoom call, and Martin started crying, and he said, we have been praying for somebody like you for 10 years in our organization. And so Matt and I got to go to the Great Commission Conference a few months later, and they brought Matt up on stage and they said, this is Matt Mizell. He's the U.S. ambassador for Teach Every Nation. And Matt was like, I'm the U.S. ambassador? I'm like, I don't know, just go with it. I don't know. Just go. And so
I was on stage when he introduced me, and I looked at Ashton, like, I just got a new title. Like,
he's like,
yay.
I'm like, but it's really cool, because the vision that God has really given us is to do what we're doing here with our church and do it with other churches, booking out the organization with churches all over the country. So it's exciting, and you get to be a part of kind of the vision and direction. I really do believe all of this is from God, taking our strengths and our passions that Matt and I have, and then intertwining all of you. So hope you get to be a part of it. It's exciting.
Thanks, babes. Yeah, so my personal goal, and by the way, I get no compensation from Teach Every Nation. It's not like they pay me to give this promotion or bring you or anything. But like Ashton said, my personal goal is to connect with 51 other pastors in the United States and convince their lead pastor to have this meeting with their congregation and bring on a different date, not with us, but bring their congregation and do the same thing that we're doing. So all 52 weeks are booked out with Christians who are unapologetic about the gospel and are all about making disciples of all nations. And really, I think that it allows Teach Every Nation to be that much more powerful and impactful when there's thousands of people coming to their campus through the course of the year that are on fire for what both Hippo Lakes and Teach Every Nation are doing. So right now, we are the guinea pigs. And the last trip that we just took was, we were just like, we don't know if this is going to work or not. And from my debriefing with Sean and with Wesley and some of the team, it worked out really well for their side. It worked out really well for our side. And what God is doing is it's a beautiful partnership that we're establishing. And together, we're going to make more disciples together than we could ever do separately. So that being said, I've got two final things. First is this: registration for this trip goes live May 18th at 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. That's 2 Sundays from today. There's Mother's Day is next Sunday, and the following Sunday at 1 p.m. Why the delay? Because this is a significant investment of your time and your money. So I want you to think about it. I want you to have time to be able to process and pray. Furthermore, a second reason for the delay is that because on May 18th, we have a special guest who's coming here. His name is Jeffrey from Zimbabwe. And he's going to be on stage with me on the 18th. And so he's flying all the way out. Teach Every Nation is going to be paying for the majority of their flight. They're going to a conference together in Atlanta, I believe it is. But then we're flying Jeffrey from Atlanta out here. He's going to be speaking on stage with me. I'm going to interview him on the 18th. And then a few days after that, I'm taking 130 something guys or so to Zion, and he's coming to Zion with us. And then in September, when we go to Zion, there's another 4 or 5 pastors that are coming with us and flying across the ocean to come with us then. So we're working on visas and all that with them right now. So anyway, so this gives us a little bit more time, gives you a little bit more time to think about and process all the details. Of everything I've just said, here's what you need to be aware of. We can only take 46 people. So right now, I just did a head count, and we have, including myself, exactly 46 people in the room right now. We have more people that are watching online, but just to give you an idea, on the interest list, because many people are gonna be watching this later that couldn't be here right now, we have 146 people interested in going on this trip. So there's only 46 people in the room right now, plus whoever else is online. But based on the amount of interest, it's triple the number of people that are in this room, and I can only take the number of people that are in the room right now. So that's max capacity. Will we add on a second trip down the road? Perhaps, maybe. Right now, we only have 1 week that's booked and only one trip for 2026. So down the road, maybe we'll take more, but right now, the plan is only for 46 people to go. In comparison, last time, we had 92 people on the interest list. We had only 45 spots then. And we sold out within a matter of days. So I do believe this trip is gonna sell out. So you got 2 weeks to think about it. Spots go live 1 p.m. on the 18th, so you can think about it and be ready if you want to. And here's how you register down the road if you want to. You go to africa2026.com. That's the website. Now, if you want to take a picture of that. Because it'll be on the QR code as well if you want to scan the QR code later on. But almost everything that we've shared today is on this website. There's additional things on the website. Frequently asked questions are on the website. There's also a day-by-day itinerary of the entire trip that's on the website. So if you're curious, what will we be doing on Saturday, on Sunday, on Monday, on Tuesday? There's a breakdown of everything to give you a better understanding. There's more information regarding Cape Town and Zimbabwe and Victoria Falls. There's travel insurance on there. So there's a whole lot more information than what we've even shared here on the website, in addition to the registration links on there. So those will go live on May 18th at 1 p.m. So if you would like to come, we'd love to have you join us. This is what I pitched last time is a once in a lifetime trip. And there's many people that are going to be going again. So really it's not a once in a lifetime trip, because I think there's a chance that you might go more than one time in your lifetime once you've experienced it yourself. But it is a transformational trip. It's a life-changing trip. And not just for you, but for the people that you'll be impacted. Really what it is a great commission, an international commission, worldwide commission, global commission trip. This church is all about making disciples. And while we are doing that here in San Juan County, what a privilege and honor that we get to partner with people like those that Teach Every Nation to also at the same time do that on the other side of the globe. Together, we will reach more people together. For a long time, I looked at the Great Commission as though, well, it's kind of metaphorical. Like you get to be in your pocket of the world and that's your way of making disciples, which is true. But if we have the capability of actually going to all nations, and Sean, how many nations is Teach Every Nation in? 163. There's 195 nations around the world. So they have another 32 to go before they get to all nations. We can look at the Great Commission as though it's a metaphor. Just say, well, I'm just going to focus on making disciples here in my backyard. Again, nothing wrong with that. But we've got one lifetime. And if we have the opportunity to actually go to all nations, like literally, instead of metaphorically, but literally have a role in that, why not? And yeah, so I think the return on your investment of your time and your money is well worth it. It's a far better deal than you could get anywhere on your own. And I think it's going to be one of those trips that you look back on for years, decades, maybe for the rest of your life, and realize this was one of the most significant trips I've ever been on in my life. So that being said, I'm going to stick around. Sean's going to stick around for a few more minutes. I know they're going to take off. This has been a much longer meeting than I've anticipated. So thank you for your patience. Thanks for sticking around. Let me pray for you. And then if you have any questions, let me know. Almost every question you can think of is on the website. All the FAQs is all on the website. The
25%, just give me a heads up.
Yeah. So here's how the pricing works, just so you know. If you do register on May 18th, you put down $250 as your deposit. You have the rest of May as a grace period, meaning that if you put down a deposit, you get a spot, and then come May 30th, you're like, we can't figure it out. I want to drop my spot. We'll give you a refund of the whole $250 deposit. And so you got a grace period of the $250. So you have another couple of weeks, assuming that you get a spot. I think it's going to go pretty quick. But you have a couple weeks or so from mid-May to late May to determine, do I for sure want this? If not, we'll give you a refund and we'll sell your spot to somebody else, because I think there's going to be a wait list. So it's $250 down. Then by May 31st, really June 1st, if you are going to go on the trip, you must secure travel insurance. We were a little bit more relaxed this last time. We're not going to be as relaxed this time. And so if you want to come, you must get travel insurance by June 1st. If you don't send in proof of travel insurance, we're gonna have a hard conversation. Please don't put us in that position, because things do happen and you need travel insurance in case something happens. And travel insurance, we've utilized travel insurance in this last trip, and then the trip we're supposed to go to Israel. Basically what it does is you pay $75 a person, $100 a person, whatever. And if for some reason you can't go, then you get a refund for the entire trip. But here's where it makes it difficult, is that we still are under a contractual agreement with what we've committed to for Teach Every Nation. So even if you can't go, we still have to pay for your spot, which really means that you need to pay for that spot. You'll be refunded from travel insurance, but please don't screw over the church, because we have to pay for your spot either way. So anyway, travel insurance, proof of travel insurance is due by June 1st, and Dion will hold you accountable to it to make sure you turn that in. If we don't get it by June 1st, we may lift your spot and sell it to somebody else. We'll let you know if that's the case, but please, again, don't put us in that position. That'd be helpful. So $250 down reserves your spot. You have another couple of weeks to reserve your travel insurance. To book travel insurance, it takes literally 5 minutes. I mean, it's not a very long process. On the website, there's 3 different companies that we recommend. You can choose any of them, use your own if you want to, but it's very simple to secure travel insurance. They'll give you a document that you can send in to us. Then by the end of June, you have another month to pay the next 25% down of your entire trip. This does not include your flight portion. Your flight portion will probably be directly through Delta. If you use points or if you use another system, that's fine too. So really, it's the base cost that we're talking about for the tents. It's 25% of that. If you're adding on Cape Town or adding on another extension, it would also be 25% of that as well. So basically, your overall trip minus the flights and the travel insurance, it's 25% of that, due by the end of June. Then another 25% is due by the end of July. Then another 25% is due by the end of August. And then another 25% is due by the end of September. Normally, the way that this works is that you have to pony up for the entire amount up front. That's how Hippo Lakes typically does it for everybody else. Because we're buying in bulk, we've allowed to create this tiered kind of pricing structure that they don't offer to anybody else. So they're being gracious to us because we paid our bill last time. They've extended the opportunity to do that again this time. So basically it gives you a little bit longer to be able to space out the payments. Anyway, all right, let me pray. If you have other questions, again, Africa2026.com, there's a whole bunch of FAQs on there. You can go through in there and read every one of those questions if you want. If you have other questions, I'll still be sticking around here, and Sean will be sticking around as well. So we'd be happy to address any of your questions, but really it comes down to, if you want to go, which I hope you choose to, May 18th, 1 p.m., that's when registration goes live at Africa2026.com. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the opportunity that we get to make disciples, that you would challenge us and you would commission us to go and make disciples of all nations. What a privilege that is. And so going all the way back to the prayer of Jabez with Bruce Wilkinson, God, I pray that you expand our territory, expand our influence from this church and this congregation. May we see the world like you see the world. And so, God, where you're already moving in the global south, may we join a movement that already exists and add to that. May we inspire and motivate and equip and train and refresh a group of people that are coming out to the Hippo Lakes and Tent Campus in 2026. And God, we ask that you multiply that leaders would be investing in leaders and disciples would make disciples. And that we really would have a practical role in making disciples of all nations. So God, thank you. Thank you for the opportunities that we get to serve you and bless other people in Jesus' name. And I pray for the conversations and the relationships we've already built upon, that we could continue building upon those relationships. We could continue into investing in the kingdom, and that you would do far more than what we could ever plan for in a meeting like this. Blow us out of the water, God, with what only you can do. So thank you, God, for what you have done, what you're currently doing right now in our midst, and what you're going to be doing through a group of people from Hills Church in April of 2026. We're changing the world with the message of the gospel. So God, thank you for entrusting us with that message. May we make you proud. May someday on the other side of eternity, we hear the words, "Well done, good and faithful servant," because of how we invested our time and our resources here. So God, may your will be done. I pray for every person that's hearing this prayer right now, that if you want them to go, you make it clear to them and you provide the time and the resources, the vacation time, whatever it may require. we ask that you make it happen. Close all the wrong doors, open all the right doors, and allow it to happen for the people that need to be a part of this team. So God, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for this group, this congregation. Thank you for our partners, Teach Every Nation. Thank you for what they're doing at Hippo Lakes and what they're doing at the 10 campus. Thank you for Sean and Michelle and for their willingness to drive down here from Colorado and invest in us today. Pray for safety as they drive back to Colorado again today. We pray for people like Anton and Sinead on the other side of the globe. Pray for Stefan, pray for Martin, pray for Wesley, pray for the team that is a part of Teach Every Nation. May we not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. So God, may your will be done with each one of us. May we be sensitive to your Holy Spirit, that we would be open to wherever you want us to go. May we not be like Jonah and not do what you want us to do. May we be bold and confident and courageous and say yes when you ask us to do whatever you ask us to do. So thank you for the opportunity. We get to love people here and we get to love people on the other side of the globe at the same time. Expand the capacity of our hearts to love more people. It all boils down to loving you, God, and loving others. And may we do both of those things in a way that makes you proud. We say all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.